got a whole new stream of thoughts for you here. I said to my mom, she said, oh, there's no sun tomorrow. I said, well, we're going to have sun. And here it is. I'm going to talk more about cults and law enforcement. And also seeing what you're seeing. And when you see what you can see and you're speaking, you sometimes need to talk it out, right? Even on fucking, what is it called, Wheel of Fortune, at the end, Pat Sajak says, talk it out, sound it out, because your brain works better when your lips are moving. I know it looks stupid, like those of you who've been moving your lips when you're reading, people say, oh, you're stupid. But it's like, when you're reading your lips, you're just really using your mind. And you don't have to. And your mind can work really well without moving your lips, because when you're reading, it's moving the lips of your brain. That could be a song for readers called Moving the Lips of My Brain. Okay? But not everything is didactic. And you may need to sound things out in life. Because they're not like Wheel of Fortune. The answer's not right there in front of you. It's in the abstract realm. Okay? So I could take this in different ways. But, you'll notice, for instance, that of all the people that the police or the RCMP ever get called to investigate, that if they are women, they get away with murder. The police are most likely to believe women. Doesn't have to be all the time, but they're most likely. And there's another reason. It's not just because they're women. It's because these women are also, when you notice it, and I'm sure men too, the best possible liars. And the best possible liars are the most motivated liars. And the most motivated liars are the most righteous and righteously motivated liars, which are people in cult where often very violent things happen. And people in a cult are really good liars. They're really good at making up new realities and really being really nice, but also making someone a patsy or a dupe or a prospective enemy if they don't believe what you're telling them. Now, the best liars, which are the righteous cult member, usually female liars, get away even though you can see on camera they're making obvious gaffes. Obvious if you're looking for a liar, not so obvious if the liar is just like you, a really good liar. Because the police are the best liars. They're professional liars. They'll never say that out loud, but that's what it is. It's a cult. And they're professional liars. That's what they do. And they protect other professional liars and other liars and other systems and agencies, right? Because liars protect liars. When you're part of a righteous circle of people, when you're all professional liars, you learn to protect the lies of others, which includes just believing them, or at least not doing anything about them. Because let's face it, everyone is always lying. So you'll notice that the best liars always evade the police, because they are lying at the same level. They're speaking the language of the police. And the police lie that way to each other every day, at home and at work. So if a person speaks the right language of the police, they're more likely to get away. They're more likely to believe them, because they're more like the people who are less like the police, the people who don't speak their language, are likely to be arrested and criminalized. Some of whom might, many or most of whom may not be at all. And a lot of eventual deaths, lethal consequences happen to people because the police don't believe what, say, a man says about what a woman has done, and don't believe men, period, and more likely to believe female assailants. Because they're all liars. That's why the police are just like the criminals they're arresting. They're common liars. Right? In the premises of my building, there were 3 criminals on the building who had committed a host of crimes in the last hour or in a week of my home, in my condo, where a lot of sick older people live. And that particular night, I found 3 people, encountered 3 people on the premises, inside or outside, who were robbing the building, physically assaulting people, in COVID getting bodily, vandalizing 2 exits of the building, and making explicit threats. to hurt or murder someone. Okay? Most of this was on camera. The only person the RCMP wanted to investigate was me. Think about it. The only person they were interested in. They weren't interested in the robbers who I met outside, who were great liars. They weren't interested in the young man who was on meth and drunk, his mother's boyfriend, or anything. They didn't care about any of that. They just cared about me. They made up my statement on the spot. They conspired with each other. They weren't wanted to remove me as a potential threat. And if I hadn't removed myself, if I hadn't been passive and let them do their business, right, then they would have found a way and would look for a way to charge me with something or to threaten me. The first thing the officer did was threaten me. And so they're allowed to threaten you. It's not even, think of it as threat. It's like their job to threaten you. And it's their job to lie. Right? But all three or four, there were four related assailants, all got away with nothing. Right? I called 911. They told me that I shouldn't have called 911, or I didn't call 911. They said that I shouldn't approach him because it's COVID, but he got bodily fluids right outside my mother's window. And he was trying to rip her door off its hinges. And she was trying to sleep. And what are you going to do? Just pick up the phone and call the police? That's it? You're just going to let him do whatever? You're not going to say anything? Right? It's ridiculous. The police make up new realities. People in cults, they lie, they make up new realities. A cult person to a sociopath to a needy person, to me or to you under various circumstances, reality is something to be sculpted so that we get what we want or we feel better. Right? And that extends to how we report, what we hear and what we do not. So my mom today lied to me, but we talked about it, and she made an effort to dismiss my voice about something that was, so she said something I didn't need to hear that wasn't true, and also made an effort to prevent me from saying something about myself that was true. Both, right? And the liar does both. The cult member, the rape victim, the victim of society, the potential predator, the sexual predator, all these people in one, they all have to do that. So the police are out there every day constructing new realities, lying to each other, posturing, telling each other, telling themselves things that are untrue. That's how they got to be the police. That's their profession. That's what they do. Okay? And then it really depends how good a liar you are as to how they're going to treat you. So an example of which is a video I saw of a police interrogation where a woman ended up killing both her children, murdering her husband, murdering someone else's wife. And they had already had information that she had threatened one of the people. They sat there in interrogation. They interrogated her. She told obvious lies. The female police officer, the male police officer, they completely bought all of it. Okay? Why? Because they weren't looking for it. Because this white man and woman were speaking their language. They were both cult members. The police are in a cult. So anyone who commits violence out of a cult mentality, they're less likely to be found out by the police. Because the cult mentality, as I said earlier, they have to. Whether you like them or not, the very thing you're asked to do as a group means they're going to have to function like a cult. Right? Just to bring that argument to a close. So there is, not a complete hatred of the police, although I don't like them, because I don't like sexual predators as a rule, but it's an obvious cult to me. Like the police is an obvious cult. It's not, maybe a cult. It is obviously a cult. That's why you get so much. Every person I've met, and I've met a lot in my life, who have a family member who's an RCMP officer, have been raped by them. They know that they have raped a child here, there, the other. It is just always the case, right? Because these people are cult members, and cult members commit sexual crimes. It is always the case. It is always the case. It's just that I don't really think that much about it. And what we think of as sex is pretty weird. And having a voice and telling the truth and letting people have a voice. A lot of us will be in a situation where it serves us not to let someone have a voice, because it ruins our happy thoughts about the world. and here in this video, you have a choice. It's not like I'm shoving it in your face. And then you look at liars, and you look at sexual predators, and you look at people who are around lying, and you look at people who have magical thinking. And you look at the same sets of people in a cult who think that it's their job to help people, and they're not doing anything to help you, and they're doing this. And yet those same kinds of people, if you're aware of your body language, your emotional language, because they'll use words and phrases that sound bad, but the language underneath tells the whole story, that they're not making an adequate provision for you. Something's unbelievable about the way they're with you. And the words are almost the opposite of what they're doing and having on you. Oh, I love you and care about you feels like you're raping me. And that's a person cult. They're in a psychotic state. They're just another man or woman who've learned to live in the world and become someone who's had to lose inhibitions about making out for their own safety and that of others as a qualification for being a part of some identified in society that helps people. There's a reason why you find so many sexual abusers, like get onto your radar, the radar of mainstream, out and out child rapists, for instance, and who work in medicine, who work in psychology, who work in law enforcement, who work with children as teachers and mentors and coaches and stuff like that. Why? Because all of those professions are cults. Sexual predators fit well into them. And they don't think they're sexual predators, and it's really just part of a spectrum in a gray area, because all these people are liars, all these people have been oppressed into their professional identity, and all of them have lowered inhibitions about what they can expect other people to listen to tell them what to do and where to be, and it's built into their entire profession. As a teacher, you're constantly telling children where to go. They've already pre-obedience trained for you. A teacher gets like a dog, and they've already been to obedience school. School is an obedience school for children. You're telling them what to do, you're telling them how to, you're telling them not to move around in their desk. It's like, oh, little Lucy is having trouble reading at the age of 6, probably has autism, and she squiggles in her seat like, she's been trapped in a cage and someone's going to rape her. I think we need to give her some drugs. She didn't ask the other day to get up and go and take a piss. She says that it's just awkward and humiliating, but I think she's a disobedient cunt, I was in a French class with a sexually perverted French who would have dinner with students. I knew this for usually males, and made a male who'd gone to the bathroom before he came to class to get in front of the class and tell everybody what he was doing and why he was late. And he said, because I was taking a shit. That's sexual assault. When you're at home and say you've got a family reunion and your house is packed and it's Thanksgiving, you don't come into the living room after taking a dump and your mom and all your uncles stop and say, hey, Landon, hey, Lucy, what were you just doing right now? Hey, tell everybody. What consistency was your crap? How many deuces did you lay? Do you see what I mean? That makes sense? Right? They don't have to be malicious. It's just normal for them. We're not looking at the intent, we're looking at the effect. And the effect should inform all of us. Okay. I should go get some. I'll go to the river in a second. But yeah, so that's that discussion. The police create new realities, right? Their job isn't to observe a judicious sense of how different people can help an adjudicator to form and reform reality, an adequate account of the voice and safety of all of the people involved. That's not their job. It's their job. Their primary job is to take all the information and sculpt a reality that makes sense to the police officer and to his culture and his cult and his way of life and his assumptions and his and her biases and everything else rolled up into their profession, and that they're not doing anything wrong, and you should accept it because they're professionals. What they are is cult members, and they're used to living arresting people who are liars and sexual predators. They work around them, they live around them. It's normal for them. The officer takes down his pants and uses his little dickie to rape my auntie when she's 15 years old in broad daylight in high school. Right? This is normal shit for them. This is just another. What else has to be normal in the RCMP for that to happen? Right? So you think it's normal. You don't think it's a justifiable complaint. Has anyone frustrated? When I was sexually assaulted on the bus, all anyone wanted to do, called to complain, is argue with me and twist my words and to limit the capacity for my voice to adequately inform those who should be adequate as to the dangers of that type of behavior based on how it felt and the effect it had upon the usual, inexplicable nature of the behavior itself. Nothing from the to the supervisor, to the operators, all of them, most of them were female. None of that mattered. That didn't matter at all. And they were used to it. This was built into their system. When you look at their website, and all you can find the safety of the customer taking the bus. All it talks about is the safety of the workplace, the safety of the workplace. You're in their workplace, and their workplace is supposed to assure your safety. It's sort of like, if we're safe, you're safe. And if you're not safe, we're safe. Okay. And if you are unsafe, and you say anything about it, and that makes us the least bit feeling unsafe about what's not us, you're basically making us unsafe. It's programmed to the surface. I've proved it time and time again. You think it's unbelievable. But between the RCMP and them, the only thing that can be unsafe for the customer is to experience any lack of safety in and of itself that has anything to do with the bus service. That's the most unsafe thing that can happen to you, on top of anything else that can happen to you in that kind of environment, which could be anything. Okay? They're all trained and prepared for that because they live in a culture of lying. Their biggest argument, that kind of thing doesn't happen to us, or if it did, we wouldn't complain about it. It's no big deal. It's not sexual assault. Go away. And clearly most people don't complain, and the ones that do go away quite quickly. They don't do what I do. The first year. So I've had the police stalk me for 2 years. Off and on, at the behest of BC Transit. And it's a learning. It's saying, I'm not going to do anything. I want to educate the public. Not even about in the NIMO, not about the RCMP per se, just about systems of people. Some of us are learning. Now, I shouldn't really sit here. I should go and sit in the stupid, not sit in the sun when the sun's up. So, this time of year, so let us away. Wow, it takes a little bit of doing for me to get myself moving sometimes, strangely enough. Oh shit, where's my... Yeah, we're gonna go to the river and in the sun. Okay, let's do this thing. You're not injured. I repeat, you're not injured. You're not injured. We have not lost anything critical. We have passed a few sexual predators. About 4 or 5 today. It's a big day. Okay, we're laced up, we're packed up, and we are, because you can feel okay out here.